Alright, this is going to be a quick one. It's meant to be a companion piece to the fact that I just finished Frieren season 1. I'm gonna be doing a character tier list based on the season that I just watched. While it's still fresh in my mind because this is unscripted, I'm doing it standing because I'm hoping it's not gonna take me too long. Okay, I'm guessing this is by Mumi Muki, who created this, so shout out to you. We have about 30 or so characters. I have about 7 tiers. So just to avoid everyone being in the same tier that I enjoyed, I'm gonna try limit it to about five-ish characters in each tier. That way I'm actually forced to grade people a certain way. But I will admit the latter end of season 1 is like fresher on my mind. The earlier seasons, not as much. So that might have like a recency bias tilt to it. So obviously we've got 7 tiers, S through F. I'm probably not gonna get as much as I would love to say about each character if I was premeditated in this, but let's not waste too much time. Do I wanna go from characters I think are F tier to S, or do I wanna go in the order of characters I see here? I think let's just go in order of the main characters. Oh, but then you guys will just see that first portion and then click off the video. But whatever. So Frieren is an S tier character in my opinion. She's someone who, at the time at which I picked up the show, I'd been dealing with loss in my own personal life. I just lost my little brother towards the end of last year, and then earlier this year lost one of my childhood friends growing up. So at the time that I picked up the show, her having to reckon with Himmel's death, that portion really, I can say, hooked me, because then I was trying to follow her along on her journey of grief, which happens to still be ongoing, because I'm sure something like that is never something you truly get over. Like, it comes in waves, right? But she's obviously a lot more long-lived than I am. Still, seeing that exploration of grief was somewhat comforting, I suppose. Obviously, she's like an awkward cat girl in some respects. Death just being the fantasy twist of her being like an elf and so forth. OP mage. I'm also like a bit of like a D&D content consumer, casual. Like, I don't play as much as I enjoy watching like Critical Role and so forth. Which, that was another thing, like the beginning with the burial of Thiazifang, who's like the one of the main character's brothers, again, hooked me in that way. So the timing just seemed wild for fantasy to get me in his clutches, you know. But she is OP as a mage, which is always gonna be impressive. She was the best part of this show, in my opinion. So S tier for Frieren. Fern is Frieren's understudy. I do think, given the characters that we have on here, I do think that she's also S tier. I'm sure the core trio will be. She is a great counterbalance to Frieren, who is this like ancient, in human terms, being that acts so childish. So a perfect foil for that character would be like a young person who's so much more responsible, feeling like they have to take responsibility of this journey, otherwise they'll never get anything done. Also, because there's literally no urgency in Frieren's life, so I understand Fern being a stick in the mud at times out of necessity, but she is also just a girl, so you try not to get too mad at her. Obviously a disciple of 2 of the party members, raised morally speaking by Haita for most of her childhood life, and then obviously they scam Frieren into taking her as an apprentice, and also one of the greatest mages in her own right, someone who I project to be, well, even Frieren said actually at the end of last season that she's probably in this era gonna go down as a greater wizard than me, which is fine, but I project that she's gonna go down as one of the greatest, in the same way that Flame is remembered thousands of years after she existed. I think the same is destined for Fern. Next character, Stark. I don't know if, because we only have 5 slots, being that he's the only guy in the core trio, I relate to him the most. But outside of him being Aizen's student and being very strong in his own right, he is relatively bland. I think both of Frieren's accomplices in this journey are relatively bland. They just have a few core defining characteristics. But Stark, he's in the most hilarious situations most of the time. I find his shenanigans more entertaining than Frieren getting caught in a mimic, for example. So he provides a lot of the comic relief in the show, which is appreciated. But he's like a regular guy. He's still noble in ways that I'm glad to see most average humans are, just because that's how I view him. But it's also super strong. We saw him one-shot a dragon, so I'm waiting to see that be unleashed. Hopefully in season 2, we see more threats that require him to step up. because he one-shot Dragon. There was that snow demon they fought when they found the hero's blade. But we'll see as we go if he stays in the top five. I don't know if his character is a top five character as yet, especially because I haven't even gotten to the party of heroes, right? Aura the Guillotine. I'm gonna put her in B tier for now. She is a demon who served under the Demon King and was one of his most powerful generals. So from a power level standpoint, we even saw how many bodies she'd collected with all the undead people she had with her, right? So she's obviously very talented, obviously very competent. She again has a childlike personality, so that's doesn't really do much for me in terms of like depth of character. She was very arrogant, which I guess was true to how Fern and Flame described demons to be. Like it's in their nature to not try be coy about like how much power they believe they have and everything. And if they think they have one up on you, they're gonna be their cockiest version. Very annoying, very satisfying to watch her kill herself, which is a wild thing to say, but I mean she's a demon. I think that was part of the design of the character. So I think she's a B tier. Next we have Blay, who was one of the two people that were teammates that fought Sense's replica in the dungeon. I'm gonna give this guy a F tier. He didn't really do anything for me. A lot of the times his scenes felt like filler scenes. So yeah, don't really need to explain much more than that. We have Berg next, who is the proctor that Ubel killed, and that got her banned, got her disqualified from a previous exam where she would have undoubtedly passed and become a first class mage. But he thought he had an indestructible cloak, and she cut right through that, and he died. So that was the only time we saw him. It was very unceremonious. So I think we didn't really see anything else other than him order people to kill him. So I'm gonna make him an F tier character as well, slightly above Blade because he made Ubu cooler in my eyes. Next we have Denkin. I have Denkin as a character above Fern and Stark. One, I like how his journey in some ways sort of parallels Frieren. So Frieren is someone who, when we meet her, she's starting at the end of an epic journey. For her, this show was like an epilogue. So Denkin, in the same way, is someone who started out as like a war wizard, military mage, who like rose through the ranks to eventually become a noble. So is one of the most powerful, politically speaking, one of the most powerful people. I don't know if he is high enough to where I could compare him to a president, but anyway. So similar to Frieren, most of his life is already behind him. This is just him in his final days. He was taking this exam purely because he wants to go see a loved one, I believe his wife, who died and is buried in the Northern Lands. So there's a lot of parallels I enjoyed. The moment where he was out of mana during the second stage of the exam, then he and Richter had to throw hands with these other mages who don't want to give up their bird. That made him super cool. Like, okay, old man still got that fire in him, which is something Serie also realized. So very cool character. The old man trope rarely fails in anime. He's kind of like a Master Roshi figure, I suppose. Except not for our party, more for his kids that he was dealing with than for our characters. Dunst is the second person. He was on the same party as Blay and they fought Sense's replica. He survived and got to the party with the information that they don't have a mind and was like, say, help me and I'll give you some info. That's pretty much all he did. I'll have him at E tier. Didn't do much else. Was immediately failed by Serie after he got there. So Drat is the demon who was the second person after Qual that we saw just straight up try attack Frieren. So I respect the guts on him, but he also was easily disposed of. His impulsivity led to the standoff between Ganata and Lugna, so he was a pretty significant character. I'll have him in C tier. Ida was also in Blaze party. She figured out the information that they don't have a mind, they just act like it. But beyond that, didn't do anything in the show. She was hit and summoned her golem immediately. I'm gonna keep her here for now, though she's probably gonna drop down to F tier because she didn't really do anything. Ere is the girl that was in Verbal's group, and we saw her go toe to toe with Fern. Other than Lugna himself, she probably pushed Fern the furthest before we got into. Well, actually, yeah, I think technically, in terms of battles of attrition and everything, she was the biggest threat to Fern that we've seen. And she held her ground, but she also showed us, the audience, just how goated Frieren is in combat. So she was useful in that sense. C tier. There's also like a mild ship that I'm hoping that she and Rebel can set sail to. Eisen. Eisen is Stark's master, the dwarf warrior of the party. He fulfills many of those stereotypes. His adventuring with the human priest Haita actually helped him become religious, which I felt like if you take the genre trappings of what dwarves are, them being like super stubborn and so forth, the priest having that much impact on his life means this is someone who's definitely more open minded. But it's also the only dwarf we've seen. So, well, one of only two dwarves that we've seen. So I don't know if he's an exemplar of the race or if he's someone who, by going against the stereotypical dwarf in some senses, is him going against the in-universe dwarven society in some senses. I have no idea. Hopefully in season 2 we see more other lands. But we still haven't even finished the first journey, so I doubt that's gonna happen. But yeah, Eisen, really dope character. Every time I see him, I'm gonna have him in A tier. Falch, he was like the proctor coordinator, but he doesn't actually proctor any of the stages of the exam. He was just conducting the mage exams. I'm gonna have him as E tier. He didn't really do much. He was just info dumping, telling the party the rules, like this is your party members and so forth. That's pretty much all I remember. Flame is an S tier character. And just like that, we're at our limit for 5 characters in a row. So I'm probably gonna have to start moving some characters around. Flame is the greatest mage of all time. Oh, greatest human mage of all time. I still think her student Flame, Frieren, surpassed her. She saved Frieren, so without her, this show doesn't exist. Majority of the spells in this world she discovered, though I guess her apprenticeship to Serie was a big cause of that. Regardless, she's still one of the greatest mages ever. She, in her short lifespan, deduced so much about the demon kind's mentality, just how they act, their strategy, their philosophy on magic and so forth. In her short lifespan, she managed to put up a barrier that has been standing for thousands of years at this point at the city that Lugna tried to invade. She also predicted that she doesn't know when, but at some point, Frieren is gonna regret not having cherished the lives that she's met in her long ass journey. And there was that tree at the beginning where it was like open to the exact page she knew Frieren would come for. So she's also a very insightful, very wise person, on top of being just powerful and gorgeous design and everything. So Flame S tier. Griff Ganat, solid. He's like a typical noble NPC. So he did that job well. He's had a standoff that showed that, generally speaking, humans don't stand a chance against demons because of how quickly Lugnat disarmed him. But he was a cool guy. I'm gonna give him a C tier. Also, the sooner we start filling up the tiers of averages, there's like people who are obviously goated, and there's people who are like middle of the road, and then there's people who are clearly like useless to me. Obviously, they serve the story as minor characters, but in the grand scheme of things, they aren't that dope. We have Janao, who was the proctor of the first stage of the exam with the whole stills and everything. He's like a bit of an arrogant asshole, but he's a first class mage, so he's kind of earned that. His function in the story should have him higher than Ere, but I don't know if he's more likable as a character. I also don't even know what rubric I'm using to gauge this. I guess it's just my thoughts in the moment. Gorilla only exists as motivation for Sign to want to go and become an adventurer. Not that disappointed that we didn't see him at the end of the season, but kind of sad we didn't see Sign again. I'm hoping they reunite in the next season 2, which is out already. I don't know how many manga volumes this has or how many seasons of a show it's like planned for, or in keeping with Beyond Journey's End and the whole point of the journey. Is this gonna be another 10-year journey in real time? Like the show's gonna run until 2034 or something. I have no clue. But Gorilla, F tier character. Then we have Haita, the corrupt priest. I think Haita is more interesting of a character, despite also being the comic relief, much like Stark is. I do think he's actually more interesting than Frieren. Also because I'm somewhat curious about the religion of this show. Frieren doesn't seem as devout as he was. I'm guessing maybe he didn't try to push that religion onto her. I don't know. But another party member who was very useful, he was the party's healer in their journey. Even though in flashbacks we generally see him being hungover, he's also someone who understands Frieren a lot. In his own way, he's a wise character. He's the reason this show, much like Flame, is also a reason this show exists. I think his S tier character, also the complexity of it starts out as a gimmick, of course, him being a corrupt priest, but we see him act on that, like him being willing to lie to one of his best friends to outsmart her. So for now, I must say Haita. While he's there, I think we have to pull stock down a bit. Himmel is probably the greatest adventurer ever. He's the LeBron James of dungeon delvers and adventurers in this world. I think the amount of statues he has probably cements him as the greatest hero of all time, which should put him on par with Flame in terms of like legacy. He seems like a great guy. He's very white knighty, which is funny sometimes, which is epic at other times, like when he has to kill the demon child, but tried to extend humanity to it at first, not wanting to judge the book by its cover like Frieren does when it comes to demon. Like she's super on side with that. So he has a humanity that is very noble. Fuck, is Himmel a better character than Haita? Because it also has the biggest impact on Frieren. A lot of Frieren's traits we're seeing now she learned from him during the adventuring days. I think that makes him a top 5 character. He is borderline Gary Stewish though, but he's also dead. So that's not going to be too much of an issue. It seemed like he was someone who reached like 99 overall. And then we also saw him as an old man just happy to reunite with his friends. And his death is the inciting incident of the whole show as well. Okay, I think I'm out of S tier slots. I'll keep that like that at the meantime. Khan was decent character. Her and Lavine. They seemed like bait characters. I'm not really a fan of the girls wrestling each other trope that was going on the whole time, but cool, powerful water wizard as well. Managed to water spirit bomb the fuck out of Richter, so that was cool. Also failed in the exams, but devoted to trying again. Her and her partner Lavine, they were just like these school rival girls that admittedly are probably the best prodigies that we had in the exams outside of Fern. I think we can have them in B tier. They're decent enough. Kraft. I don't remember shit about Kraft. I just remember him warming Stark's body in the heat, in the cold. We stayed in his cabin through the winter and then he just left. I know he's an elf, he's older than Frieren, almost triple her age, I think. I don't recall, but Kraft the monk, if you follow like D&D trappings, then he also means he's a physical martial artist. He went and rescued bandits from being slaughtered by Ubel, and that was about it that he did in the show. D is a bit disrespectful. There. Land, I'm not gonna lie. The reveal at the end of the season that he wasn't even at the examination arena, that he sent a clone, and no one figured that out until Ubel probably did, but no one figured that out until Syria called it out. Coolest feat I've seen in the show so far from a non-main character. I definitely have him above that feat alone, and which sort of kinda recontextualizes some of his previous actions, has me placing him above Aura and Khan. Smart guy too, smart guy, obviously. He's got that Midorima almost sly arrogance, like I'm just smarter than you sort of demeanor. And he's yet to be proven wrong, so I enjoy that for now. We'll see how that develops, because he also passed and is now a first class mage. We've got Laufin, the 1010 Chun-Li supersonic teleporter. Dope character design. She's kind of like an adopted daughter of Denkins. She's talented in that respect. I think they were the first party. They were the main threats in the first stage to Frieren's party. A lot thanks to Denkins' wisdom, but they were like a significant threat. She has a lot of potential as a warrior. I don't know how much of a multi-class she is between warrior and wizard, because she can like teleport, and she seems like she has a staff, if I'm not mistaken, for like fighting in melee. So she seems like a very complex build. But yeah, she's a dope character. I'll give her B tier. Laufin over Can for me. Lavigne is just the second half of this pairing, but I enjoyed her more than Can. She has that firm, calm headedness about her, which made her seem more mature, more responsible, which I much preferred to Ken's extroverted, doing too much energy. Lenern showed up briefly. I was disappointed, but I knew Serie sort of manipulated him to at least trying his luck against Frieren by saying he won't ever get another chance. And he was also hurt by the fact that he thought his master wouldn't remember him, despite him being evidently one of the greatest human mages in existence, right? He thought he would just be a footnote in history unless he can do something crazy as slaying Frieren. Powerful. He's the reason Frieren is even able to enter the exam because he recognized that ancient tome that marks her as like a all-star mage since prehistoric. It's not prehistoric, but like since ancient history. So he's a solid character. Running out of space in this slot, so let's take you, place you there for now. Land goes up for now. Height comes down. Oh, this is such a wild tier list already. This is the girl, I believe, fought and realized that the replicas don't have minds. No, that was Edel. So who's Lagna? Is it the girl who was gonna get crushed by the spikes and was the first one to be a limit F tier? If it's who I think it is. Lugna, probably the best demon. That's not true. Probably one of the best demons in the show. I think the tonal shift of Frieren immediately saw him and upped pole, like didn't hesitate. I think that represented the most dramatic tone shift that I experienced in the show. And he was like our main, really. Obviously, he was a lieutenant to Aura, but I think as a character, I enjoyed him much more. He was much more fleshed out in the times that we got to see him. And he was an exemplar of the demon race and what they were capable of in terms of manipulation, using words to like honey trap humans and stuff. He was a brilliant character. I have him above Land. Lenny, she's like a warrior that can copy other martial arts she's seen. Super cool ability, but other than that, the character doesn't really get up to shit. I'll have you as a D tier. Method doesn't really get up to much. I think she even does less than how did Method pass? Because I think she passed and is a first class mage. That was the one where I think Serie dropped the ball. I don't know what was going through her mind, but she did not deserve to be given. Based off what we saw during the 3 stages of the examination, she did not deserve to be a first class mage. Richter deserved it more than she did, if in my view anyway. Odin is the adoptive father who like Stark looks like his son, and that was that whole civilizing is the wrong word, but like turning Stark into a noble somewhat. That sort of arc. He looked almost exactly like this nigga. As a character, he's about there, which just pushes Janao down. Drought was more impressive as a character, at least the gumption to do what he did. Qual I really enjoyed. He was the first demon we saw, so I don't know. He made a very strong, lasting impression because legacy wise, again, his spell, Zoltrak is his spell. The most common, like the Eldritch Blast of this universe, the most powerful common cantrip that everyone can use, he invented, which is insane. Now, granted, it's basically a 0 level spell, but inventing it just because all the other magical technology caught up doesn't make that any less impressive, right? Then we also saw in real time, he studied one shell of the defensive spell and knew immediately, okay, this is how you overcome it. You simply just overwhelm it with power. So also genius for someone who was basically in an 80-year coma to come out and be on smoke immediately and not let his guard down and still be learning and adapting in real time. So if he'd been alive and been allowed to gain the experience that a Frieren might have gained, he would have been a problem. So I'm gonna have him, yeah, which pushes Kane down, which pushes Kraft down. Richter was also a great character, very stubborn, reminded Denken of a younger version of himself. I appreciated Richter because of all the people who saw take the maze exam. He seems to be taking this borderline wish as a reward. He took that most serious. So that was very realistic in terms of someone with ambition, the type that Serie would have wanted. And he probably would have passed if he made it past the second stage of the dungeon. I definitely think he was more deserving to be a first class mage than Method by a long shot. He kind of just got fucked by being partnered with Lavine and being sent to fight one of the clones. I think Richter is. Lavine can come down. Do I have Qual over? I think I have Qual over Land. Let's bring Land. But Land is so dope though. But literally no one else in that tier is moving. So and Qual's character design is also so cool. Okay, once everything has 5 characters in it, then maybe we'll start seeing who deserves to be the exceptions in each tier. Shoff, this is Rorble's partner, I think C tier character. He got outwitted by Shoff by Land in their battle when their party took on Frieren and so forth in the first stage. He's a cool, like, ride or die figure that's accompanying Rebel, but he is also very much a side character. Okay, this tier is too bloated now. I think Shoff can go down here. I think Khan can come down. Oh, this is tough. This is tough. Sign was an amazing character. Prefer Sign as a character to Land. Narratively speaking, his function when he was in the party, shit was just so much smoother. So I appreciate that. But he's not a better character than any of these people. He's only better than Land. So I think Land can come down here, which then pushes Laufin down, which then pushes Ere down. I think that'll push Shoff down. And then Sense obviously is gonna push someone into F tier, so let's figure that out now. Shoff, more enjoyable on screen than Dunst. I think we'll push Edo, but she figured out, and Dunst was just the messenger. I mean, Dunst goes down. It's inevitable. I think Linny goes down. Sense can come in. She's powerful, of course, but narratively speaking, she seemed like just an observer. She's above craft, though, for sure. Now, here comes the real problem. Serie, I thought she was being built up to be a villain this whole time, and she still might be. But considering that she's the queen of magic, her benevolence, I take that to be a good thing, because she could be a lot more evil than she is. And she's also the greatest mentor of all time. She's probably like the Hashirama Senju of this world, from what we've seen so far. As in, she is the greatest magician, first of all. And then she also, everyone that she's ever apprenticed has gone on to become Kage level, or is on the trajectory to be like a Kage level, S rank level mage. So she's clearly got the Midas touch when it comes to the students that she picks on a whim. So clearly also her intuition is insane. She is an A tier character. Okay, let me see. Is this the order of dopeness of these characters? Let me see for now. Or we'll do that after, actually. For now, I'm happy with that tier. That's 35, 36. Oh, we have 40 something characters. So maybe we'll make it 666. Stoltz, this is Stark's brother. Like a mild Uchiha. We didn't see much of him, but he basically was a big bro figure that looked out for Stark, who thought he was seen as the runt of the litter based on how his dad treated him and everything. So he was a dope character. This is Tone, the guy who didn't want to partner up with anyone going into the dungeon, F tier character. Pointless. I don't know why he was there. Old Man Vol was the person who was standing guard at the place because his wife wanted him to, and that was like her dying wish, even though he can't remember her name now because it was centuries ago. But he still holds on to that promise that he kept to her, which was a parallel, kind of parallels in a way, Frieren and her devotion to Himmel and like vowing at his deathbed that I wish I would have gotten to know you better. And she's now undergoing that journey to know humans better to compensate. But Old Man Vaughn himself was, I'm gonna say D tier. I think I'm gonna do, based off how much I like these characters, Verbal should be up here somewhere. I think that's a good starting point. Now, Frieren, Flem, Denkin, all better characters than him. Himmel is a better character than him. We've seen more of Fern, obviously. Fern is obviously a better character than him, okay. But it's because it's also not like a power scaling video. Also, I don't want it to be like a basically scaled on how much screen time you get versus how little screen time you get. Because Robin is a cool character. Like his character design is just fucking amazing. Is he more important? Is he a better character than Serie? I don't think so. Robin is a better character than Stark in my opinion. And then Ubel is just so competent that she can't be anything less than A tier. Brandison has those. What are his three sliders? He has a character's like ability as one of the sliders, character's competence, and then I think it's impact on the plot. Let me just double check. Right. So Brandon Sanderson's sliders are likability. I think I should keep this in mind actually as I go and readjust now the characters based on this. Likability, how much I like them as a character, right? Proactivity, how proactive they are, and so forth. And then competence. Yeah, all these words are pretty self explanatory. You can also read the brief descriptions of what they mean. So now, with that in mind, let's look at the tier list. Who is a triple S in terms of likability, proactivity, competence? That makes Flame. Okay. Really, Fern is super low on the proactivity thing, kinda, just because she has no urgency. But we're also following her journey, so can only go solo. Nah, I think she's still above. I think she was a better mage than Flame. Okay, Denkin, likable old man, super proactive, went to get a license to go see his deceased loved one. As far as likability, the weakest in the A tier is Lugna. So he probably needs to go down. I think Ubu is around there. I think I'm overrating Land because of his competence. Lenern can come down. Nah, I can't. I think this is the final tier list. Ubu over Ice, and I'm good with that. Sign. As soon as Sign left the show, he was void, was missed as a character, so I think I'm good with that. Lugna, I think I have to keep him there because removing him would make me a prisoner of the moment. The best demon threat we got in the whole season. Land, way more competent than Stoltz. Don't know if he's more likable. I think that's pretty much it. The lower tiers, I don't think it's worth passing out who I like more than who because they're such minor characters, but that was my tier list. Why don't you drop down who your top 5 characters in the show are and who you think I got wrong in this video? But top 5. Robo not being top 5. Nah, fuck it. I could be here all day. That is my tier list after season 1. We'll see if maybe season 2 changes things around. And what happens, look at the Flame Prince. If you enjoyed this video, please go ahead and smash the like button, smash the subscribe button, share this video with other fans of Frieren. I thought this was going to be a short video. It's longer than any of the reactions I've done, so that's annoying. But with that out of the way, I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.